Hey, welcome back to Uncle Harvey's Honey. Hey, I just got back from presenting at a local bee club here in my area. 2 C's in a Bee Beekeeper Association, and I couldn't thank them enough for having me over. And I really hope that I gave some tips and tricks, and it was mainly focused on bear fence, protecting your apiary, and some other winter techniques. And I just wanted to say thank you. We were having all kind of trouble with the projector, and I ended up just having to show like a PDF on the screen. Um, there's My PowerPoint didn't work, but I told the club members that I would come home and try to edit in to the videos and some of the pictures, and maybe mention something that I may have overlooked because I didn't have my notes because they were in the PowerPoint presentation. So it was kind of on the fly. And I told the club members that I think I could edit this down and add in, give a little bit more information, and have that available for the club. So I'm going to go in and see what I can do and edit this video the best I can with some of the slides. And we'll see how it goes. And I'll post this for the club. And thank you so much for having me. It was an honor and a privilege. Thank you. All right. Thank you for everyone for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to go through, it's going to be a little bit about equipment, but it's more going to be maybe changing your, I'm not saying you have to or anything. I'm going to show you, it might be a different mindset on your management style. So I'm going to have to, I have all my notes on the PowerPoint, but I'll just kind of wing it the best I can. And I think the presentation will come through for what you need. I'm a professional geographer, so I do have to travel around the country, and I ended up in Alaska working up on the North Slope in the Arctic Ocean, mapping for the oil companies. And then my work needed someone to help PennDOT out, and there's a lot of work in Pittsburgh and in Harrisburg, so here I am, and we can move on. So the two main things that I want to talk about today is that winter preparation and that kind of timing of the year. And one of the things that I thought would be really valuable is setting up an electric fence. It might be a little bit different that you've seen before, but it's modeled after the Alaska Department of Fish and Game to keep brown bears out when you're in the backcountry with your food. And I kind of modified it slightly. And my thinking was, is if it keeps brown bears out, it'll keep a black bear out with a little bit of adjustment on the spacings of the wire. So we'll get right into kind of my timing and what I'm going to do. I always pull the honey, this is in general, between mid-July and at the latest, August 1st. Everything's off. Now, am I sacrificing some money there that I could sell? I'm sure I am. But this technique where your boxes are like a box of concrete, or this would be the time if you needed to feed. Most of the time you don't when you pull it this early, because you're still gonna have the white, sorry, I'm gonna refer to my notes, the white Dutch clover, the asters, and the goldenrod, they're not even blooming at that point. So that's kind of the timing. And like I said, am I sacrificing some honey that I could sell? Yes. But that preparation and getting them heavy and getting them sealed up early is probably more important, in my opinion, than the equipment. Now, in Alaska, and you go further north, the polystyrene hives are the best. They just are. I have a couple of them, but I don't run them in general because they're expensive, and I can't drive up the Man Lake and get a pallet of boxes and put them together in the winter. And also, you'll see I have one employee. It's a tool, it's not an actual person. But that doesn't work on the poly hives either. So, right after, usually the week after I pull the honey, the bee yard is a disaster because I'm in there and there's just stuff everywhere. The boxes aren't lined up, the corners are all messed up. So that's when I take the time to go back, and they're already reduced down to 2. When I pull the honey, it just goes to 2. All my frames are interchangeable. So if there's not a bunch of honey down in the bottom, I'll put honey down in the bottom. If, I got some cross combing, but I get it set right then and there. And also what I'll do is if I have any like secondary, you know how you'll get new entrances on the back or on the side, your wooden work is not good or you're getting it's rotting away. So I seal it up with tape, and doing it that early, it's still warm enough that the bees will come in and just propylize that area that you put the tape, because it's no longer an entrance anymore, and it just gets packed full of propolis or propolis. I don't know how you guys like to say it, so I'll just say it whatever comes to my mind. But that idea of sealing it up early while it's warm, and there's not just the honey resources, but the sap resources, and that seems to help out. I'm also going to put mouse guards on, and I got a kind of close-up picture here, and I know probably everyone's thinking, hey, you have 1/2 inch hardware cloth here. It needs to be 3/8 of an inch, right? That's what they say for bees. Now, I've never had a bee get into one of my hives when this is put on early enough. The other thing you don't want to do is wait for this. But when I build my boxes right here, I build all my bottoms and all my tops. One, because they're they're heavy duty. I don't have to rely on someone shipping this to me. I just have to drive to Home Depot, basically. And luckily, my father has a shed, and it has a lot of woodworking tools in it. So I take advantage of that when I can. So back to what I was saying. Right here, this is 3/8 of an inch high, and I just line that up straight across. And then you can also see my bees, they just love to chew that bottom box. And I think it's because I'm running the same entrance in the summer, in the winter. It doesn't bother me. If they want to customize their front door, then let them. I just let them do it. I just have to mark. This is always going to be a bottom box, even if I would have to take it somewhere else. Another little tip and trick here, I do brand the front of my hives, and I don't know, when you're looking through them, you put the box behind you. I always have these stands here that I always have one right behind when I'm doing the inspection. So I'll have a box, and that way nothing's on the ground. But in case I don't know what the front or the back of the box is, it's super easy to tell because I have my branding, and it always goes towards the front. And it's just a little tiny trick that might just help you out. Because I know before I started doing this, I'd put the box down, and then I'd be going through the box below, and then I'd turn around and I'd be like, I don't know which way the front is, but now I do. So just wanted to give you that simple little trick. And when I was doing my home energy audit, one of the first things they do is they tell you, work on your attic insulation and seal everything up. And that's what I was talking about with the propolis, and then the insulation that I run on top. Now, it's not pretty, but it works. And I'm going to go through how I started. I started with foam board insulation, and it's great. But on my hives, because I don't have a wooden inner cover, I'm just running cloth tops. And these cloth tops are full of propolis. I think I love them. One, they're cheap. Two, the bees it's just coated on there. And I just know that there is some research, and they're talking about, all this propolis, and the more the better. They got hives that have it on the sides, all kind of stuff. And I was doing this before that research came out, so I just kept along with it. If you use, a lot of the Canadian beekeepers are going to use that foil bubble stuff, and that works great, but they do not put anywhere near the amount of propolis that they do on these cloth tops. And plus, I went down to Surplus City, and I probably have enough tops for the next 20 years. I just bought the whole roll. It's 100% cotton. It's called duck cloth, and you just try to get the thickest that you can find. A lot of painters use it for their canvases. Now, like I said, you don't have to run it. I'm just explaining what I'm doing. And I'm going to do a little prop here. Because I'm running that as insulation, look at this. This is just a mess. This is what the ants do. And year after year, does everyone see this? Can everyone see it? It's just chewed up foam board. They make their home in there, and it doesn't work out for me. It works out for them pretty good. Sorry, I have everything piled up here. So year after year, I just got tired of fighting with the bees. So this is this compressed rock wool insulation. And I'm just kind of pulling from my experiences on insulating a house and the energy audit I got. So they recommended this. It's fireproof. It's mold resistant. It's expensive. But when if you do choose to go down this route, you have to make sure it's the compressed. Now, where did I put the clicker? Here. So I took a screenshot of what I'm using. I think this is about 2.5 inch. I believe it's a R8. Where the foam board, it has better insulating property, but not when the ants eat it. So that's that. And what are my notes here? Yeah, I'm always trying to just look for ways that I'm not making more work for myself. So like, this is the lid, year round. The entrance, year round. I don't have to put, I guess if you did get some robbing, you could shove some grass and make the entrance real small, but it's not another piece of wooden equipment I have to run around and lose somewhere along the way. Here's me. Oh, it's R6. I can see it right on there. So I'm just cutting that with a bread knife. Once you use it, it's dedicated. It's no longer a bread knife. And then let's talk about comb storage. So, in general, is everyone here trying to preserve their comb from year to year until it gets to a point, and then you need to get rid of it? I I think that 5 years is my max, and it's gone. I'll scrape it all down. I'll power wash it. I'll re-wax it, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. This is an old play shed when I was a kid. My dad built this for me. It's half rotten away, but it works. And I just this are all the brood combs, and that's not big enough for me, but it's a good start. The idea behind this is you're just getting air, some light through there, and doing your best to battle the wax moths. And I've battled them for sure. It's just, if you want to preserve your comb that has either at one point had pollen or brood in it, it will get destroyed unless you do something about it. I'm not going to stack boxes up and put chemicals in there. I mean, because everything here is interchangeable. They can tell me that it's safe, but I just choose not to use it. So I don't. Here's my employee. I told you we'd get to it right here. All of these boxes, in theory, should be just honeycomb. They're not, because I have too many pollen and brood frames. So I do the best I can. This technique works probably about 50 to 60% of the time. The wax moths will still find a dark area, and then you lose that comb for the year. But it does work. And here's another little tip and trick. I got a buddy, Brandon Zlepko. He's got a long leaf or long pine needle tree in his backyard, and he's more than happy to give me pine needles. What I do is I store this for a whole year. So, like, I didn't even get through this whole bag this year. So that's this year's. This was last year's. In a smoker, you can basically burn anything you want if it's dry. You can burn grass. You can burn pine shavings or pine needles. You could, if you go to a woodworking shop and they have some leftovers from the router or from the planer, just save it. But the tip is you got to save it for a year before you can use it, because a lot of this stuff is wet. And there's nothing worse than a smoker that won't stay lit. So that's just a tip and a trick. It has nothing to do with winter maintenance. I just thought I'd throw that in there. This is a video. It's not going to work on the PDF. But as you can see right here, and this was this year, 4/15/2025. And yeah, that bear in this video walks up to about this area here and heads directly to that bee box. The fence system I'm going to show you here today, I'm not saying it's 100%, but it is effective. It's proven. So let's get into the bear fence. And I want to make sure that I cite my sources here. This information has been gathered by the Alaska Department of Fish and Game. It's important to me to make sure I cite my resources. This is not my idea, but I have modified it quite what's going on. What you're doing is the bottom wire is always hot. The next wire up, I have a video later on that it's not going to play. It's probably 3 inches up is going to be your ground. Another 3 inches up is going to be the positive or the hot wire. So like it's basically all way down here. In my experience, watching a bunch of bear videos and fences, and I would say 75% of the time they're always going to try to scoot underneath that bottom wire. They try to go under. They're normally not going to plow through. But if you want to be extra cautious, instead of just running the positive and negative at the bottom, put one up about halfway. And I'm going to go through why this is effective. One, you can do this in dry areas, frozen soils. Um, and the idea behind it is when those two wires touch or touched at the same time, the energizer gives you the full power. So you're not relying on the bear to be grounded through the ground, back through your ground rods, and then back to the charger to initiate that shock. It's side by side right there. And I will tell you, if you accidentally touch this, you will make a noise that you have never made in your life before. I've done it. I have multiple chargers. I do it the hard way. I like to build my own box with a bigger battery in there and then a solar charge controller. I'm running Parmac, and I think it's called EU for no, UO. Parmac UO. That stands for unit only. They do have a, yeah, it's very similar to that, but those batteries fail, and people are always messing with them. I put this up, and it's just a more robust system. Kind of like with my bottom boards, it's just more robust. I only want to build stuff once. I'm tired of going back and buying. So I basically take an old box, and I'll make sure it's on the inside. Don't put it on the outside of your fence. And then I have the switch at the gate, but the box is inside. The bears will figure out and they'll just rip it. It's clicking. They'll just rip it down, and then your protection is gone. So make sure it's on the inside. I went up and took a video. I wish I could play it of the setup. So I'm trying to describe it the best I can. So we'll start with the solar panel. Solar panel wires go into the box, and I'll go ahead and give you a shot here. Solar panel wires come in out of the box to charge. They go into the charge controller. From the charge controller, these green wires, I just have two green wires here, they go to the battery to charge the battery, and then from the battery I have the alligator clips hooked up to the electric fence charger. You do have the option to power the fence charger directly off of the charge controller, but I just chose to run the alligator clips. But know that that is an option. Now on to the most important part, is the grounding. So I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to follow the ground wire out of the box. This is the ground wire. It comes down. It's hooked right here directly to the wire and exits out of the apiary. Here we are. Exits out of the apiary and goes to the first ground rod. And I have a series of 3 of these, and they need to be at a minimum of 10 feet apart. That wire continues on, goes back through the woods, and then let's zoom in. There's the second one, and then the third one continues on. All right, here is the switch wiring. Now I do have it off just so in case I would happen to touch it while doing this demonstration. The positive wire right off the electric energizer comes out of the box, comes up into the switch right here, and then from there the positive line comes down onto the first wire, and then I have a series jumping from wire to wire down. Now here it does skip this line and then goes to the bottom. So basically from the bottom I'm going to call out this positive, negative or ground, positive, 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 and positive right here. Now you can add in more ground alternating if you wish. So you could have positive, negative, positive, and then this one could be negative. The reason and the benefits for the negative line is when animals try to push through or scoot underneath the fence, because you don't have to worry about the animal grounding through their feet. When these 2 wires get pushed together or touched at the same time, you've basically completed the circuit, and you get the full power of the energizer. Now we'll go ahead and discuss just, general gait. All I'm doing is tying a loop knot here and setting that up. Let's talk about the spacing. The bottom line, I would say, is approximately 4 to 6 inches off the ground. And then between the bottom lines that are alternating positive, negative, positive, I would say that that's probably like a 3-inch gap, possibly 4. Same here. And then as you go up, it's about 8 inches spreading up to the top. Make sure that you do have your sign marked stating that it is an electric fence, just for the general public and anyone that would happen to walk by. The T-posts, it's all going to depend on your layout and how you have everything, but I would say the T-posts are about 10 feet apart, 10 to 12 feet apart, maybe 15 at the most. One of the benefits of this type of insulator is in a situation where you're going to have to maintain and keep this cut with a weed whacker or something like that. These are really easy to slide up and down. Well, I say easy, and then there we go. Slide up and down, and that really helps out. Gives you more clearance. You can even pull them up even further up if you wish. Just the bottom lines. They also, I've found at my other apiaries, it's more of a box shape than this one, and these hold up on the corners where there's a lot of pressure really well compared to those yellow ones that stick out. They seem to snap a lot. So you can use those in the middle T-post sections, but I definitely recommend these for the corners. I hope that helps out explaining this, and this is modeled after the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, and I used that information, and I figured if it keeps brown bears out with a few modifications for an apiary here in Pennsylvania, it should keep brown bears out, or excuse me, black bears out also. Hope this helps out. So this is kind of the same, positive and negatives, wires that are alternating. And then the source on this is Paul Scott. I believe he's out of Canada. He made this drawing. I think that's about all I can say for fences without showing you the video. That was the video there. So the key takeaways: minimum 1 joule output. Minimum. The lowest wire, like I said, is going to be positive. 4 to 6 inches above that is a ground wire. And I should mention this: when you run your ground wire from the Energizer to your ground rods, you need to have a series of 3 spaced approximately 10 feet away from each other. Try not to cut that wire. Just cut the insulation on the wire, pull it back good enough to connect to the wires, and then go out to your ground rods. If you have it cut and then you're relying on 2 wires with the connector, it could fail, but it could work too. I just choose to take that extra step of it's 1 solid wire that comes out, goes to the fence, goes to 1, 2, 3 in ground rods. It's all 1 wire. It's never been cut. I already talked about this. Make sure it's on the inside with a switch at the entrance. And then this is just more information on the electric current. I think I've gone through it pretty good, but it's basically stating what I said, but in a better manner. And winter's coming up, so if you need any reading, these are some of the historical books that have come. Most of the time they're in the forgotten book section, but this is what has propelled my beekeeping. But I learn more off of reading books, and so it might not be for everyone, but if anyone, I just thought it would be a good idea because winter's coming up. These aren't all the books that I recommend. These are just the most impactful. And I'll give you an example. For these old books here, This one was written in 1913. And you might say, well, what do you get from that book? Well, in this book, he talks about setting up his bees in rows and the spacing of his sickle because he wants to get a full pass. He does, once he gets going. So what did I do? I just measured my string trimmer and now I got my boxes set up. So not that that's the only thing I learned from this book, but this is a good example of the historical knowledge and just things that you don't think about. The other books in here, I think that if you want to understand what's going on, the best thing to do would be to go and make sure you understand biology of the honeybee. How many days is the queen lays that egg? That egg stands up for how long? When does it lie down? How many days is it fed? When is it capped? Because all this math, if you understand it, when you go back in, that'll help you start making your own queens. And that's going to propel your beekeeping leaps and bounds. You won't be bringing in queens. You won't have to rely on others. It's a more self-reliant type system. But that's not for everyone. But for me, it's just one less thing I have to think of. So this Scientific Queen Rearing is one of the best books that I've read for understanding drafting if you choose to, and even if you don't, it does just go through the biology of the bee. One of the things that I did is I did go take a bunch of college classes out. University of Montana, I believe, has online classes. You just pay them your money and it's like going back to school. They give you homework assignments and you have to memorize a bunch of stuff. But it's important because you get more information and it goes back to the biology and the timing. A lot of that. So this is a shameless plug. This is my contact information. I do have a bunch of YouTube videos. And you can, if you want, you're more than welcome to follow my beekeeping journey and see all the different apiaries and me running around in this tiny little pickup truck with my employee. And then also, I mainly focus on woodenware. So like I go through all the dimensions on these bottom boards and tops and the stands, and just in, like, for instance, it took me I think it probably took me 5 or 10 years to figure out that this is the best screw in the world to put your boxes together. It's got a built-in washer and it's already coated to be outside. It's a pocket screw. That's what it's made for. But I don't use it for that technique. But it holds the boxes super, super tight. So there's all kind of tips and tricks I have on that. And I try to, it's hard to beekeep and film because, well, I don't need to explain it to this group. And then I do have a website. This is just general contact information. And then this is the final slide. I have some props up here and I'm just going to open it up. If anyone has any general comments or questions, if you want me to go back through that timing, trying to get that prop list set, the lids, anything, just I'll do my best. Yeah. Yeah, I do. Now, you wouldn't be able to do that if you're running wooden, because the bees would be able to get up there and they'd do the same thing that the ants do. But because I'm running a fabric cloth, The only way that I think you could do it, if you did have a wooden standard inner cover, would be to take that foam board and go get yourself a bunch of that foil tape and just enclose it in it. I'm going to guess the bees and the ants wouldn't eat through foil. There is no ventilation. The hole on the bottom.
That rock hole holds moisture.
Say again?
That rock hole you use, will it hold water? Like, does it get wet?
I poured water on it when it was raining, and it'll bubble up for a while, but I would assume after a while it would hold some water. I've never opened up the hive and it's just been soaking wet. I've had it early in the spring where it might be a little damp, but usually not the whole thing. It's usually like in a corner. Yeah, I mean, I think if you sealed it up, I don't know. If it does pull some water, then it's just like having a moisture board on your hive, I guess. I never thought of it like that till now.
Well, your cloth might be frozen enough to moisture.
I use them year after year. I have some, when you pick them up, it's like stiff as a board. They don't bend or nothing. It's just, but they do degrade, and eventually in some areas the bees will chew through it and you end up replacing them. But when you can buy a whole roll of it, and you sit and just cut them all out at one time. I have a stack of like 50 or 70, and I still have a whole roll that I could go back and do more. Surplus city. But they don't have it all the time. You know, you just got to find when they do. Any other questions or comments? So, in general, how does everyone, and I thought I was a little hesitant on bringing it up, but to the group here, how do you feel about pulling your honey that early? Or when does people know, when does the group pull honey? Like, everyone probably does it different, but in your other classes, when do most people pull honey around? I never go to September. So like I won't get my bees after August the 1st. It's done. I say I'll see you in the spring. And it's all propolized up. It's now if I needed to feed, I would do. I'm not saying don't feed your bees and have them starve out, but getting it super heavy early enough that it can be cured by the bees, dried out, and then, I mean, there's no sap this time of year. I mean, maybe there's some, but in general, nowhere near when it's like in August. It's not the same consistency. If there is, I would think it would be way harder for the bees to gather. Does anyone? Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
About the fabric. You said you use it for the top of the hive?
Yes.
You don't have a roof over that?
Yeah. So I'll pick that up. If you want to come, or I can bring it to you. Basically, this one's brand new. There's no frames in here, so it won't sit on here, but I'll try to hold it up. It's basically, it just sits like that, and then the cover just goes on it.
Oh, it's,
Yeah, so like,
you have your frames, and then you lay that on the top and then put the roof on.
yep. And then
And where,
this is this one's not real heavily coated, but in general, that's what it's going to look like.
and why do the bees like this?
I don't know if bees like it. It's more for the beekeeper than it is for the bees.
And so when you take the roof off to inspect it, that's protected.
Well, the other nice thing, and I didn't even mention this, so when you're doing your inspection, instead of popping that whole top up and all the bees come at you, you know, they're looking at your face, you can just, because it's all glued down, you just roll it back. And then you do this side, and then you can move it to the other side. Have you ever seen, I think they call it a quiet box, where you can inspect your bees and you're only opening up the certain area that you're currently dealing with. So that's another benefit of it. And it's sticky. So in the summer, when you put it back on, like wherever you put it, you don't have to worry about it blowing away. I don't know. It's just something that I picked up. I believe it was from University of Guelph in Canada. They were running it, and I just thought I'd give it a try. I started this technique up in Alaska, and then I just kind of transitioned. I had to leave all my equipment there, which was sad. All my polystyrene boxes that I paid for. They wouldn't let me transport that down, you know, which is good. Just that's the rules, and I followed the rules. So I had to start all over again. But I'm using some of those techniques. You know, in colder regions, if you wait till it's cold, it's over. If there's not enough food and it's not sealed up, good luck. You know. So I think that's kind of, I still have that mind thing, you know, that thinking where I'm going to get some of the honey, and I don't want you to think that I'm not going through my bees, because I mean, it's heavy manipulation in the spring. Basically, if my bees make it through it, they're two. Everything gets split. I don't want them in the trees. That's the whole nother story, but if they make it through the winter, they get split. That original hive is usually my honey producer, where I move the queen to. That usually builds up to 2 or 3 boxes. I might get a little bit, but most likely not too much. And then back, the cycle starts over again. Did someone's hand over here I saw? No?
What are you using for mite treatment?
I think that would be a better discussion, you know, from the other. I don't use anything. But I'm not here to recommend. I'm here to talk about winter preparation. That, you know, that I'll let other people talk about that. Yep.
What is the last day that you would open your boxes?
August 1st. Or nowhere past mid-August. I mean, if you had to, and it was an emergency or something, but your feeding and everything's already done. Everything's done by, I would say, August 15th. They're up to weight, you know, everything is lined up. The boxes are all sealed. Oh, the tape that I use, I'm sure someone would be interested. Now, if you have nice, pretty boxes that are painted and with the design, don't use this paint, because you won't have any paint on it anymore. This is just standard Tyvek tape that you can get. It does stick to porous wood materials, and when you get it on there, it's on. Usually in the spring, I take a knife and I just cut the boxes apart instead of trying to pull tape off. But if you do pull that tape, you'll see the whole thing is fully propolised the whole way through. So that entrance is gone. And not only is it gone because you put the tape there, but they've actually sealed in behind it. And that's all I have. You know, I hope that helps out. Even if you could just take away one little tip or trick. And I'll be here if anyone wants to watch any of the videos that weren't in the PDF that we did here today. I'd be more than happy to show you. I have the insulators that I use. Oh, before I go, you know the yellow insulators that they have that they sell at what are the store? Where are the ag stores? Yeah, Tractor Supply. So those are perfectly fine for the middle T-posts, or if you're running wooden posts or whatever, they're fine. But on the corners, because you're keeping your line tight, they will snap because of the. They just do. They're not very good insulators. This is the best insulators I've found, and so I brought this in. They can go on, I think, 7 different directions on a T-post. Whoever engineered these did a good job. These are definitely made for your corners because you can pull them as tight as you want and you don't have to worry about them snapping or anything like that. I've never had to replace one of these in the field. And the yellow ones, I've had fail on me, I don't know, 10 times. And then if someone's interested, if you would have to feed using this technique, you just take yourself some scrap wood, cut yourself a hole in the center, and then on that you just cut like I call it like a U shape, and you just fold that fabric back right in the middle, put this on top, put your choice of feeding, a bucket or a brand new paint can that's never been, however you choose to do that, and then just put a box around it. Feed from inside the hive. But feeding is a little bit of a challenge until you build a bunch of these. Once you have these, then it's easy. You're basically feeding from the top if you need to. But you need something to cut out because your frames are sitting right up against there, so you have to provide that space, I guess is the way to put it. Any other questions? Yeah.
When you were in Alaska, did you insulate your boxes the outside?
We just run polyhives. So yeah, they're insulated top, bottom, left, right, everything's insulated. Yeah.
Now, are you, since you're here in Pennsylvania, is that tape the only insulation you have just in between the boxes in the wintertime? Sealing the cracks?
Yeah, I won't tape the boxes unless there's a crack. Does anyone else, has anyone else seen on some of my boxes, the bees will come and they'll propolize from the outside on all those cracks and in the corners. So the bees that I have, they propolize from both sides. They'll, like one time I had, I don't know if I'd call it like an awning or something off the front, and they propolize the whole inside of that. This is on the outside of the hives. So I tape them if I think that, if I don't see that it's sealed or there's a secondary entrance or your corner's starting to rot out, yeah, I'll tape it. But otherwise, I don't tape every single, that would be a lot of tape. Let's talk about the wire. The wire I get, and I brought it in for a demonstration. You're going to want to try to find, at the minimum, 7-strand multi wire. This is 9, so that means there's 9 strands of metal going through that poly rope. Just the more the better, basically. And for the grounding, I forgot to mention this. All of my grounding are stainless steel grounding rods. If you choose to use copper grounding then make sure that your insulated wire, don't mix your metals in your grounding. So if you're stainless steel, then you get stainless steel wire. I brought it in. It's insulated. I tried to bring everything in. Come on up afterwards, but like, so that's stainless steel because it matches my grounding rods. If I had copper grounding rods, then my insulated wire would be copper. Don't mix your metals on your connections, I guess. That also would go for your connections to your ground rod. So don't get a copper fixture, just get a stainless. Try to keep everything the same metal because it will corrode more when you're mixing metals and it's sitting out in the weather year round. And wintertime, I almost forgot to mention this. Everyone's going out and getting these crazy thermal cameras and doing everything. All you need is this. You just walk right up to the hive and put your ear on it. You can tell if they're alive or not. It's super easy. You don't have to bang on it or anything. Don't be banging on your bees in the winter. But it's super easy. It's repeatable. This isn't going to go bad. There's no batteries. You can throw it in the truck. Works every time. You can also wait for a warm day and watch them fly, but you know, just that's another little tip and trick I thought I'd bring in. It's because we were talking about winter, and that's a good way to tell if your bees are alive in the winter. Yes. Yeah. I think I would, but I would consult with other members of the club. I don't run them, so I try not to speak on things that I don't have personal experience with. To me, I think I only want the entrance coming through that 3/8 of an inch, 5-inch wide hole, but everyone runs their bees different, and I'm sorry, I'm not answering your question. I don't have any screen bottom board, so I don't know what I would do. Yeah, I mean, those bottom boards are really nice. I know you can monitor the hive. Is it called detritus? Everything that falls down. I mean, you have a better understanding of what's going on inside your hive with those. So maybe someday if I could upgrade my bottoms. Who knows? I'm not there yet. Anything else? Well, with that, please come up and look at the props. Thank you.